Well, hello everybody. This is Robert, and welcome to the Outbreak News This Week live stream. It's being streamed on the Facebook page, Infectious Disease News, and on the YouTube channel, Outbreak News TV. And what I try to do, I try my best to go out there at least once a week and take a look at some of the bigger stories of that week, in my opinion. So I have that. I guess I have that prerogative, right? And I also want to encourage people, if you comment or ask questions via the Facebook page or the YouTube channel. And I also put out a link that if you want to come on the show and enter the live stream, just click that on and come on and offer your point of view. I really would appreciate that. Well, I want to go ahead and start with the main story. There's actually several main stories, but the one I kind of put in the title, which is the case of vaccine-derived poliovirus found in Ukraine that was reported earlier this week. Let's go ahead and take a look at that story. And so the Ukraine Ministry of Health reported a case of acute flaccid paralysis caused by poliovirus type 2 in an unvaccinated 18-month-old girl from Rivne Oblast, Ukraine. The case had symptom onset of September 1st and was hospitalized on September 3rd due to paresis of the lower extremities or partial paralysis. The child was not vaccinated. The parents refused to vaccinate due to religious beliefs. In the country of Ukraine, children are required to receive 6 doses of polio vaccine at a number of different stages, 2, 4, 6, 18 months, and then at 6 and 14 years. The vaccine coverage in Ukraine for polio and many other pathogens is pretty low. It's very on the low side. It's about 53% in the country as a whole, and in the Rivne Oblast, that portion of the country, it's less than 50%. So, yeah, big issue there in Ukraine, and that's something that there's been concerns about, right? There's been concerns. And let me go ahead and take a look at some follow-up on that, because clearly when something like this happens, we end up seeing pretty big mass vaccination drives, especially in a place like Ukraine, who hasn't seen, I'm not sure if they've ever seen vaccine-derived polio in the country. I haven't seen it reported, and I've been covering this stuff for some time. But let's take a look and see what's going on concerning any kind of vaccination drives. And this is from Interfax Ukraine. It's a Ukrainian news agency. Make sure you guys can see it fine. All right, good. And it says, in Rivne region, at an extraordinary meeting of the Commission on Environmental Safety, Man-Made Disaster and Emergency Response, a decision was made on an additional round of immunization of children against poliomyelitis to prevent the spread of the disease in the region, the health ministry reported. The level of immunization of children against polio is insufficient. Only 53% of children under 1 year of age received routine vaccinations in 2021. Given the case of poliomyelitis, we must now carry out an additional round and vaccinate all children in the region in order to protect children from infection. This is according to the chief state sanitary doctor. So from October 11th to October 22nd, an urgent 0 round of vaccination will be held in the region with the introduction of IPV vaccine for children under 5 years of age, regardless of previous vaccination. The next 3 rounds will be will last 90 days and cover the entire population of the region in this age group. So it looks like they're making the move to make sure this doesn't spread. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I was really surprised to see the story coming out of Ukraine. So you may be thinking, polio in Ukraine. Well, let's distinguish what we're dealing with here. This is a circulating vaccine-derived poliovirus 2. It's not a wild poliovirus, and I'm going to go ahead and share with you a short video from the Global Polio Eradication Initiative that discusses vaccine-derived polioviruses. So if you're not familiar with it, I can help you get familiar with it with this really nice, simple video. Okay, and let me know if you can't hear it. This should be okay to hear.
Polio is an incurable disease that can cause permanent paralysis. Thankfully, there's a very effective vaccine known as the oral polio vaccine, which provides lifelong protection from polio. Each drop of the vaccine contains a weakened form of the poliovirus. This helps the body to develop immunity so that the child is protected against polio. Just like the wild poliovirus, the vaccine virus can be passed from child to child. This helps spread the protection against polio to other children, even those who aren't vaccinated. However, when a large number of children are not vaccinated and immunity levels are very low, the vaccine virus can continue to spread from one unprotected child to another for a long period of time. As the virus continues to find unvaccinated children, it undergoes small genetic changes. On very rare occasions, this can cause the weakened virus to change into a form that can cause paralysis. These rare virus strains are called vaccine-derived polioviruses. They can paralyze people for life and can even spread to cause outbreaks. This is called a circulating vaccine-derived poliovirus. If immunity is high, vaccine-derived polio cannot arise. That's why it's so important to reach every last child with vaccines. If outbreaks do occur, they can be stopped in the same way as wild polio, with vaccination campaigns that protect children against all types of polio. To eradicate polio, we must stop all types of the virus. Let's make sure we vaccinate every child and end all polio for good.
All right. Well, so anyway, that gives you a little description. So if children are given the oral polio virus, which is used in mass immunization, it was highly successful in India. If you recall, India was reporting hundreds of thousands of polio cases, I don't know, 10 plus years ago. In 2014, they eradicated polio. They were certified polio-free and have remained that way. And never in my lifetime did I even imagine I would see that. It was such an incredible feat by the country of India. But what happens, just like with the wild polio virus, the vaccine virus will be excreted, right? And it can be potentially transmitted that way and can cause outbreaks. And we're seeing that in a bunch of countries, including the two endemic countries that are still around, Afghanistan and Pakistan, but in much bigger volumes in parts of Africa. Nigeria's reported about 169 vaccine-derived poliovirus cases so far this year. It's just astounding amount. But like the video said, it can all be prevented with a proper vaccination. Now, I want to stick on the polio topic a little bit longer because, I don't want to always be on here being the bearer of bad news, but I did find some pretty good news. I mean, it's not that I wasn't aware of it, but this is a good time to bring it up. And like I mentioned, Nigeria was declared polio free. I think it was last year. That they were the third polio endemic country for the past X amount of years. Now it's just Pakistan and Afghanistan. And let me bring up another interesting little tidbit. And this is from the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. And hopefully you can see it. Let me make sure you can. Okay. So Afghanistan has there is one case reported in 2021. One case in Afghanistan so far this year. And this year is going on its 10th month, right? So some really amazing numbers there. Then if we take a look at Pakistan, the other wild poliovirus endemic country, so far there's been one case in Pakistan in 2021. This is incredibly encouraging, especially when both these countries have been reporting dozens to scores of cases every year for the past several years. So the fact that there's been 2 wild poliovirus cases in 2021 so far this year is pretty astounding. So I guess the question is, is Afghanistan getting close to eradication of eliminating poliovirus, wild poliovirus, right? There's 3 types of wild poliovirus, 1, 2, and 3. 2 of them have been already eliminated. So there's only wild poliovirus 1 is left. That's being reported in Pakistan and in Afghanistan. So here's a report from, let me get that up real quick. This is not the smoothest way to transition here. And this is from, I think this is Gulf News. And it's asking, is Pakistan on the brink of eliminating polio? And it says, Pakistan's polio program has made substantial gains in 2021 with only 1 wild poliovirus case and 8 circulating vaccine-derived type 2 cases reported this year as of October. In comparison, wild poliovirus affected 84 last year in 2020, and 135 children were infected by the circulating vaccine-derived poliovirus last year. So is Pakistan on the brink of finally eliminating polio? While there is significant decrease in cases, the country cannot celebrate any success yet, and rather consider this a golden opportunity for Pakistan to intensify concerted efforts to achieve polio eradication. This is according to a key health official that supervises the polio program in Pakistan. The 99% decline in wild poliovirus type 1 cases indicate that Pakistan is on the right track to achieve polio eradication. However, the current gains are fragile, as the country has been at this point twice before and was unable to curtail the virus. Pakistan needs to redouble efforts to ensure 0 new cases by reaching every child with the vaccine. To be certified polio-free, Pakistan or Afghanistan is required to report that there were no children affected by wild poliovirus over a period of 3 years. So, yeah, massive continuance of immunization campaigns against polio is the answer, right? This is the answer. And what they do door-to-door, vaccinating the children. One thing that's going on in these countries, though, is a lot of times these polio workers are being gunned down, killed for whatever reason, and that definitely hinders the process of eliminating polio. But yeah, so some pretty good news coming out of Pakistan and Afghanistan, and we'll see where it ends up. It's hard to say at this point, but we are seeing some fantastic news out of those two countries. And right, there's been one infectious disease that's been eradicated, right? That's smallpox. That was 40 years ago, 40 plus years ago. Polio has been teetering on the edge for several years now. This is about as close as I've seen it to being down to almost zero. Then there's guinea worm disease, which is pretty close to eradication. There's a couple dozen cases the past couple of years. Some real progress going on with some of these infectious diseases. Of course, with smallpox, it was because of the vaccine. With polio, it will be because of the vaccine. But with guinea worm disease, it's really education and just teaching the public in these villages, how to avoid these contaminated water, et cetera, et cetera. So really, really good stuff. So that's my little bit of good news on today's program. Polio is looks a couple steps closer to eradication if all goes well. And like the expert in that article said, is we've seen this before, so we don't want to be jumping to any conclusions. All right, I think I'm going to cut off polio at this point and move on to the next story, which just popped up yesterday. And it's just like every time I see this stuff, I just think, man, this country just cannot catch a break. And that's, of course, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And the Ministry of Health over there announced on Friday a new case of Ebola has been detected in Butsili in North Kivu province. And there was a outbreak there that was just declared over a few months ago in that province, in that part of the country. Well, there's another case going on right now. It was confirmed in a young child who died after suffering Ebola-like symptoms on October 6th. Butsili is close to Beni, a town which was one of the epicenters of the 2018-2020 Ebola outbreak in the eastern DRC. They're not sure if this is related to the previous outbreaks, this particular case. The city of Beni is a commercial hub with links to the neighboring countries of Uganda and Rwanda, something for those countries to keep their eyes out on. The World Health Organization is investigating, and I think these countries and the WHO and they're seeing Ebola pop up, at least to me, it seems like more frequently. And I think I've seen these countries grow with some expertise over the years. I remember Uganda used to get blasted with Ebola outbreaks, hundreds of people getting sick and dying. And they really learned well to contain it. And then, of course, was the 2014-2016 West Africa outbreak, which blew everything out of the water. And that was in more urban settings rather than the rural settings of previous outbreaks. And that just went off the charts. But we saw that Guinea, which recently had an outbreak, handled it fairly decently. So anyway, so I guess this new case would be considered the 13th Ebola virus disease outbreak in the DRC. That's my guess. I haven't heard anybody say that, but I would think that one case is considered an outbreak of Ebola virus disease. And if you have any comments, any questions, if you want to come on the show, I put a link in the comment section. Just let me know. And I think I'm going to move on to the next topic. And this is piggybacking on something I talked about last week. I was really looking for some answers more than anything else. It's like, is anybody even noticing the increase of H5N6 avian influenza in China in the past several months, the past year. It's really been explosive, and so it's as if this media source is called BNO News, and let me bring it up. Was reading my mind, and they came up with an article concerning this topic. Let's make sure y'all can see it. All right. So the World Health Organization calls for surveillance to explain the rise in human cases of H5N6 bird flu. And it says, the WHO says increased surveillance is urgently required to better understand what's behind the recent spike in human cases of H5N6 avian influenza on mainland China. Now, since the first case was confirmed in 2014 in China, 48 total cases have been confirmed. But about a third of them have just been in the past 3 months, and half of them, 20-something, have been reported in the past year. So a World Health Organization spokesperson told BNO News, quote, wider geographical surveillance in China's affected areas and nearby areas is urgently required to better understand the risk and the recent increase of spillover to humans. This particular type of avian influenza is known to cause severe illness in humans of all ages and has killed more than half of those infected. While there are no confirmed human-to-human transmissions, a recent 61-year-old woman who tested positive in July denied having any contact with live poultry. So there may have been a human-to-human transmission, but that has not been confirmed yet. Currently available epidemiologic and virology evidence suggests that H5N6 influenza viruses have not acquired the ability of sustained transmission among humans. Thus, the likelihood of human-to-human spread is low, according to WHO. But due to constantly evolving nature of influenza viruses, WHO continues to stress the importance of global surveillance associated with the circulating influenza viruses that may affect human or animal health, and timely virus and information sharing for risk assessment. And China's CDC, and I talked about this last week, they've done several reports recently on H5N6, and they have reported on several mutations in a couple cases, described the spread of the virus as a serious threat to the poultry industry and human health. The increasing trend of human infection with avian influenza virus has become an important public health issue that cannot be ignored, according to researchers. So I guess that sheds a little bit more light on the topic than I had last week. So I appreciate that report from BNO News. That offers a little bit of light, but there's still a lot of darkness. So we'll be keeping our eye out and see what comes up from this increased surveillance that the World Health Organization is requesting. All right. And if you got any comments or questions, please feel free. And I'd love to put it up on the screen. And the last thing I wanted to talk about, and this was something I wanted to talk about last week, but I was running long and just figured I'd go ahead and hold on to it. And there was another Naegleria fowleri fatality in the United States. And let me bring that up and make sure y'all can see it. Yeah, that was in Arlington, Texas. This was earlier in September. And anyway, this is how the story went. On September 5th, Tarrant County Public Health and the city of Arlington were notified that a child was hospitalized at Cook Children's Medical Center with primary amoebic meningoencephalitis, a rare and often fatal infection caused by the Naegleria fowleri amoeba. To protect the identity of the child who died at the hospital on September 11th, blah, blah, blah. All right. One interesting note, and I don't know what the treatment regimen was, but I have reported on this before on the website outbreaknewstoday.com that Cook Children's Medical Center, I don't know if that's Dallas or Arlington, it's somewhere in that area, is one of the hospitals, the approximately 24 hospitals that do keep miltefosine on hand because they're aware of it and they know that there's more risk of Naegleria fowleri in those areas, I guess. They've had them before. Tarrant County Public Health Investigation determined 2 possible sources for the child's exposure to water containing the amoeba, either the family's home or the Don Meisenheimer Park splash pad in Arlington. The CDC confirmed in later September the presence of active Naegleria fowleri amoeba at the splash pad from water samples and determined that this was the likely source of the child's exposure. So, yeah, this is not from a lake. This is not from a river. This is not from a pond. It is from a splash pad. So the city proactively closed all the public splash pads for the remainder of the year out of an abundance of caution. And the city's working with the county and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, the health department, CDC, to determine whether the splash pad was the source and what conditions may have allowed the amoeba to exist in the treated water. So, yeah, sad news for this child and her parents. Yeah, let me go ahead and I guess one of the interesting things was I was talking to my son-in-law about this in the past week. And I told him about these different risks, and which include stuff like neti pots if you use tap water. There's been a case in Louisiana of a child getting it from, the tap water from their home on a slip and slide. So it's not always recreational, natural, warm, fresh water. Louisiana's had a number of issues in some of their parishes with Naegleria in their public water systems. Anyway, so the last story I want to put up. Anyway, so what my son-in-law asked me was, could they sue? Yeah, of course they could. You can sue for anything. Does that mean you're going to win? Not necessarily, but yeah, this appears like it could be a case of some kind of negligence. We'll see how the courts hash it out. But according to this report, the parents of a 3-year-old, it was a boy. I thought it was a girl. My bad. The parents of a 3-year-old boy who died after being infected with a rare brain-eating amoeba that was found on a Texas splash pad he visited sued the city that operated it for negligence on Monday. So how long ago? Okay, so that was earlier this week, and it gives the family's name and the child that died. Yeah, so the lawsuit said city employees, quote, failed to adequately monitor and chlorinate the city's splash pad water, making the splash pad unreasonably dangerous. So, yeah. No big surprise there. I guess I kind of saw that coming. But, prayers go out to the family, give them some strength. This has got to be a horrible thing. And as far as I know, as far as we know here at the website, that would be the 3rd case in the United States so far this summer. I think there was one in California, and I believe the other one was North Carolina, and of course in Texas. So anyway, all right. Well, that's what I got for you today, and I just But before I sign off, I wanted to go ahead and throw something out there. If anybody is out there and you're listening and you have some unique expertise on some type of infectious disease topic, if you are in an area and you have some unique on-the-ground information concerning an infectious disease in your area of the world, I'd love to have you come on in the live stream and talk about it. Let me know. My email is can be found at the website. If you look at the About Us section of the website, outbreaknewstoday.com. But yeah, I would like to do stuff like that. I know there's people on here that have some deep knowledge about some of these topics, and love to have you come on and we could talk about it a little bit. And I know it's not easy. I get that, but I always play nice. So if you watch any of my podcasts, I'm a very fair questioner. So, all right. Well, that's all I got for you today. And I appreciate you watching. The people on Facebook, Infectious Disease News page, or on YouTube, the Outbreak News TV page. I really appreciate it. And again, check out the website again, outbreaknewstoday.com. I try to keep up to date on the latest news and do our best. And I appreciate everybody watching today. And I'll see you next week on this program. Thanks.